Welcome to Uncorked and Unscripted, the podcast and video series that gives you VIP access to the unscripted stories of people I've met through events. In this episode of Uncorked and Unscripted, fellow small business owner and DJ Chris Hintz joins us to discuss how the events industry has changed over the years, collaborating with your competitors, and our 12-year-long friendship in the events biz. Now uncork your favorite beverage and listen up as we spend the next half hour unscripted. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Uncorked and Unscripted. I am Addie Graham Kramer. Today we have with us the incredible Chris Hintz. Woo! Woo! I was waiting for you to do something, Chris.
Waka waka.
I know. How are you doing today, buddy?
Oh, I'm great. I'm fantastic.
Good.
How are you, Addie?
I'm good. We were just chatting prior to going live here about Napoleon Dynamite. I would love to see a show of hands or a thumbs up or something on this podcast to see how many people have watched Napoleon Dynamite. I cannot believe that Nate, our producer, is just watching it. What he just said 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, a couple weeks ago.
Oh my God.
I mean, I'm guilty of that too. Like I'll come home at like 2 a.m. from a wedding or something, and you flip channels through and it's on, and you're like, I mean, I want to watch something mindless that's going to make me laugh, because if you don't laugh at that show, like, I don't think we can be friends. It's just the way it works.
And I said, it's so dumb that it's funny, but you just said that you had to watch it 4 times. So before you're like, wow, I get it.
Yeah, the first time, one of the guys who used to work for me, his name's Kyle Langley. It's been like 20 years ago, obviously, since that movie came out. He's like, you got to watch this movie. It's so funny. And I watched it the first time. I'm like, this is stupid. And he made me watch it like 2 more times. It was playing in the warehouse when we were like loading trucks and stuff. And then you kind of get to the funnier parts where it's like,
been chatting with hot babes online all day.
Or the steak problem, all of it.
And now, I'm sure you've seen it. Like, there are so many people though that dress up still to this day.
Yeah,
like
the vote for Pedro t-shirts
and Napoleon
and
stuff.
Yep.
All
yeah, absolutely. Stuff. And I seen one on TikTok where there was like this 3-year-old, right, that had dressed up like baby Napoleon. And
oh my gosh, no way.
Yeah, it's hilarious. It was fantastic.
Oh my gosh.
He had the boom box, the little Walkman and the headphones, and it was like full on. Oh. And it's making, I think it's making like a pop comeback, with like some of the people our age having kids.
So. My gosh. Well, maybe in our free time, which I know is very little these days, but maybe I'll have to watch it again. But hey, speaking of free time, like, how is your fall looking? Like, this is the time. We're both obviously in the events industry and trying to wind down a busy year, but I feel like this is a busy time for the both of us. Wouldn't you say?
October is one of our heavier event months, and I think that and April are really our 2 like really big heavy months. We have other months I think that are busy, of course, but I don't think we have anything that really like parallels between April and October. Yeah, and that's nuts. Good. So
it is nuts. Yeah, it's good. And in our industry, Chris and I both are in the corporate. Chris also handles some weddings, but corporate and nonprofit events. And with that, I think it's just a busy, busy time for all of us. But before we get into all the things and how long we've known each other and weird things that we've done over the years together, we always ask every single one of our guests, because we've got Uncorked, which is what we're all going to do today. And everything's also unscripted. I want to know from the uncorked piece of it, though, what is your drink that would describe Chris Hintz? Like, if you were to pick a beverage that would be you and embody you, what would that beverage be?
I think probably Moscow Mule, I would say, would be it's one of my favorite drinks. And I think it would embody a lot of, who I am. I think I don't love drinking anymore. I used to love drinking, and I wouldn't even say like love. I would say I enjoyed more cocktails back in the day than I do now. I currently I just don't. I don't know why. It's nothing personal, but if I do drink, it's always a Moscow Mule. It's refreshing. It's got a little bit of spice to it with the ginger, of course, a little bit of, a little acidic sometimes with the lime, but very smooth and it tastes different in different cups, right? So I think that's pretty much reminds me of who I am. In different environments, I can be a different person, just depending upon, how comfortable you feel or where you feel like you fit in. And I know those of us who are in the event industry, I think there's a lot of us that are introverted extroverts, where, we can be extroverted and we can charge our batteries by being extroverted. But if you put us in different spaces, like if I'm with my wife and we're doing her craft fair, I have zero issue being at the back of that booth and not engaging. And it has nothing to do with her or her clientele. It's just, it gives me an opportunity to be subservient and step back. And that is really nice. And I feel that Moscow mules are kind of the same way.
And you're a little spicy.
Sometimes, yeah.
I think
depending on who you talk to.
I think you're a little spicy. Why is it though that Moscow mules like taste different in different cups? Because I agree. I mean, like are they usually like stainless steel cups or no? They're like the bronze cups, right?
Yeah, copper typically.
Copper. Thank you.
But most of them are honestly like just a stainless steel cup with a copper outside.
But I had one, I'm not going to name the establishment in Sioux Falls, but I had one once and it was just in like a rocks glass. And I was like, what is this? Like, I asked her, I said, I think like I ordered a Moscow Mule. This wasn't the drink. And I thought that she had given me the wrong drink, but she said, nope, this is what they have. This is what they serve them out of. So for me, I was like, oof. And again, maybe it's the perception or all mind games of that I think it tastes different. I don't think
so,
but I think it tastes different. And so we've got those same mugs and I keep them in our freezer at home.
Yeah. It 100% does taste different. It's just the reaction of the alcohol and the blend and stuff. And if you have the copper cups, it's like a, I don't know if it's chemistry or physics, but there's a specific heat to copper that's, lower than some other things. And there's not as much transference of heat. Yeah. So like when you have a cup, like
you're sounding like Bill Nye the Science Guy right now.
What's that?
You're sounding like Bill Nye the Science Guy.
I know, I kind of do.
Welcome to today's PBS special.
Yes, you asked. Just kidding. But when it's in something like this, a lined cup, it just stays colder. And I think that when you have your hand, that heat transfers to the liquid and then it melts the ice differently. And I think it actually does change the chemical compound because it does taste different. So
I'm sure someone's going to call our asses out on social media here because of it, or they're going to give props to Bill Nye. Chris,
hey, either way, we're going to have the right answer. So that's not a bad thing.
Oh my gosh. Well, for those that do not know all about what you do, Mr. Hintz,
sure.
You're the founder of Pinnacle Productions. Why don't you share with our guest a little bit more about what Pinnacle does? Pinnacle Productions, Pin Studios, you've got the whole gamut of different things. So I want to hear like how you all got started, what it looks like today, and what you do.
Marta, and in the background, for those of you who know our company, Marta does all of our marketing, and they're actually working on a new website, and they've done a marketing campaign, over the last 20 years, because Pinnacle as a whole has been, we kind of started in 2002, but we really don't count the first 2 years as being anything. I don't even think we were incorporated. I think we were just doing it as kind of like a hobby. And then when we incorporated in 2004, so now we're in 2 decades of this. So looking back, it's completely different. And it was funny how like some of those earlier teaser pieces that we had,
which I've seen some of them because you posted them on your pages earlier this year.
Earlier this year. Yeah, there's 2 of them. And we were looking at all of these different like logos and stuff like that and how much things have changed. And it really is a microcosm of like what has the company become and what has it kind of evolved into. And I started the company basically when I got married the first time. I had no idea what I wanted. I just knew I didn't want the cheesy things that were predominant in most of the weddings that I had been in as a guest or as a, best man or usher. And so we kind of started the company with the frame set in mind of like, how do we create an event where people are cheering, one more song at the end of the night? Because those are all events that we all want to be a part of. And when we started, it was really, we were thinking more in like the nightlife industry, like how do you, go to these parties and differentiate yourself? What is your USP? And on the karaoke side of things, which in 2004, like everyone was calling for karaoke. They weren't calling for DJs. It was all karaoke.
Champs.
And so we kind of like pivoted.
Champs.
Yeah. We did Champs. We did the Turn, the Sunday, Monday.
Gosh, so
and then Bennigan's back in the day, if you remember Bennigan's.
Oh, yeah, I do.
Their Monte Cristos and that raspberry crack jelly that they sold.
I was a huge fan of that, but
so good. Not good for you in any way, shape, or form, but man, was it good. So that's really kind of where things started. We were trying to figure out a different way to present karaoke and be a little different, a little bit better. And the draw for our shows just started to grow and grow and grow. And so we expand, of course. And when we expanded, then it was into other things. It got into like the bar, the nightlife, and the DJ side of things. And then it got into the wedding industry, the bridal industry, and got into corporate working with an old friend of mine, Tom Block, who brought me in to work beside him. And those who know Tom know he's an incredibly brilliant guy. Not always the best on the front side of the business part of things, but when it was behind the scenes, like his technical abilities was impeccable. The ability to communicate those things were maybe not his strong suit, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's why you hire for your weaknesses and accentuate your strengths. And so I worked with Tom a little bit on that side of things and really liked the corporate environment a lot, actually. And for those of us who are starting a business and it's a hobby and you want to make it a full-time thing, you start having to look at things like, okay, where's our revenue streams coming from? How are we going to supplement our income to the point where we can, surpass our income at our full-time jobs and follow our dreams? And I think that path has kind of led us down some roads that I don't think we ever would have thought of being. And when Jeff and I merged in 2014, for those of you who don't know, Jeff Muselaar, aka DJ Core back in the day, yeah, we were good friends. We used to have a group of us that went out on Sundays called the Brunch Bunch, and we would, go to Granite City and we go to all these places, and being foodies, we just developed a really good friendship. And then in 2014, some things happened on my side, some things happened on his side, where we kind of jokingly said we should just join forces, and we did. And
I remember it. Yeah,
it has been a incredible ride. Some incredible highs, some crappy lows, like the pandemic time, of course, when we're all pivoting and trying to figure out how to survive, and also seeing talent that hadn't been realized, like Zoss, for example. He was a kid who was working at Taco John's, as a manager, and had hit up Jeff and I about our pin shows stuff, which was promoted parties where we'd bring in artists and rent out venues and do the ticketing and do the production, do all of the merch, really heavy on that side. And he kept hitting us up on Facebook, like, would you like us to do a recap? And it was like, who's this kid from Taco John's talking about video? And now you fast forward 10 years and this he's no longer a kid and doing the quality of work is insane. And now he's got a kid, you know what I mean? So it's crazy,
That's
so
awesome.
in 14, I think we went hard into the nightlife space and got a call from one of my former contacts in the event industry with Aflac, with Mike Evans up in Watertown. And he hit us up and he's like, hey, we're going to make a change and we'd love to have you bid on it. And we'd love to work with you. So what's it going to take? And from that point on, we made a shift and started going pretty heavily after the corporate market. And it was a very slow ride. And then we started doing I thought we were doing pretty high level stuff at the time. And we were using our entertainment background to create a different level of feel so that when people walked in a room, it wasn't just two projectors, a screen, some stage wash, and a couple microphones that hopefully worked. It was, stage design and lighting and uplighting and using music to cue bigger moments and walk-up music. And, I had a little bit of background in radio. Yeah, 100%. We wanted it to be immersive. And then, we met this incredible lady named Addie, and we started working a lot more together. And I think that, your guys' creativity pushed us to be bigger and better and to do bigger and better things.
Thank you.
And I think it's been a mutually beneficial relationship all the way through.
Yeah.
But I look at some of the things that we have done, and I am somewhat emotional. So when I walk into these rooms, like for, SME and the Cattlemen's Association, and know that I haven't had to touch anything and it's executed beautifully, I don't know from a founder's perspective how you can be more proud of your team.
I agree.
Or the growth or the ability to take this vision and create it into a reality that people talk about, enjoy. You get text messages.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. It really, really,
and I clearly remember actually the day when I don't know if it was when your merger became finalized or what it was, but you, Allison Parsons at the time, Sarah Mogg, Jeff, a few others were downtown at Crave at the Hilton. We were outside on the patio. I don't know if you remember this, but I do. And I remember Jeff saying something like, yep, we're almost final, or it's final. And I remember like, wow, this is like the coolest merger ever, because you do take Core's experience, Jeff's experience in it, and you have merging together with your experience, your talents, kind of the industry that you have really helped to elevate. And you've got these two awesome products together. And I clearly remember that day. And it was just, for me as an outsider, just breaking into the industry because, while I'd been a part of it in other organizations, I hadn't had my own. And for me, I
Yeah.
was just a year into the mix. And I remember having these conversations, us together, of like, what's it going to look like and how we're going to build really incredible things together. And over the years, it continues to wow me, to be honest. And that's where, when you say like you walk into a room and you see the products of our teams coming together, it is a lot of freaking work. Like
Yeah.
people do not realize the hours or that it takes your team 2 days to do a set and us multiple hours, sometimes 2 days as well. People don't realize all that goes into it, but the end product is you're helping organizations together raise 300 and some $1,000 that night or $2 million or whatever it looks like. Like we play such an impactful part of these events that are truly changing the lives of people all across the country. It's not just DJing and it's not just sound and it's not just AV. It's not just the putting up 2 screens and a projector anymore. It's changed the entire experience from the moment they step foot into that venue to the time that they're walking to their cars. It's an entire experience.
I couldn't agree more. I think the elevated experiences, I think that we've been able to help curate because clearly we're not doing it alone. We have
Right.
teams, we have
Caterers,
partnerships
we've got
with the
everybody,
venues, and
so many people. Yeah.
100%. And I
Yeah.
think the good parts, obviously outweigh the bad parts. And when you see the event go off flawlessly and you have all of these people of, different levels of, organizational pieces from, I think of some of the things in the background that we've done with some major artists and major speakers and, earning those kudos and those respects and even getting these private messages offline, like on LinkedIn and stuff like, some of this stuff, like we're not going to post because,
It just is what it is. Yeah. I
it
get
is what it is. Yeah. It's some of that stuff can be kind of private and it's good to share those pieces. But I think the biggest thing that we can do for, our mutual best interest is always advocate for their brands and advocate for their causes and then figure out different ways that we can ideate and create things that, collectively we couldn't do individually.
Yeah. And I mean,
so that,
our relationship has changed a lot over the years too. I think not just personally, but from the company side of things, like I'm not going to say it was just transactional, but we have learned together and grown together truly over the last 11 years
yeah,
that I've been in business anyway. And I think like you had mentioned in the beginning, like we've helped to kind of elevate each other and help educate each other as well. Pandemic was one of them for sure. I
yeah,
mean, we attended over 30 virtual conferences, before like trying to figure it out. And I remember you, I, Jeff, Callie, Natalie, just trying to figure out like what's it going to be and what's it going to look like. And we're putting one sheets together at 2 a.m. in the morning to help do pitch decks for people and
yep,
trying to literally save our companies and save the team members that are relying on us to help pay mortgage, pay car bills, all the different things. Like we did everything that we could possibly do during that time frame. But I think from the elevate to the educate piece of it, we've just done a lot. And it has transpired. I mean, we're doing huge video projects together. We're sharing stories for people all across the country. Chris and the team have traveled with us from coast to coast too. Why, I don't know, but they still like hanging out with us. But Jeff and I have shared rooms together in travels. I mean, there's just so many stories over the years. But I think it just shows, I think, the power of being purposeful in what we do, but also
yeah.
like we are not transactional people. It's all
No,
built on our relationships over these years.
yeah, and I think I think only now it's been like trending as saying like some of these statistics I've seen from Forbes and Bizweek and stuff where it's like 87% of businesses transaction through relationships. Well, I have a feeling that we've been ahead of that trend for quite some time. And I know that as, business owners, like we're constantly planting seeds and we're constantly planting these connections and relationships and the relationships are what's important. The business is a byproduct of the relationship. And those are, some of those things take a lot longer to harvest than others, and that's totally okay. The hard part about what I think we do when we do it on a high level is that it can look easy.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
And
for
from
sure.
the
For sure.
outside looking in,
Yeah.
those who we obviously work with, directly, they understand the hard work and stuff that goes into it. But I think the attendees, a lot of times they just think, wow, that was awesome. That must be really easy to do. It's like, yeah, well,
and from our side too, I mean, I had this conversation just recently with somebody, but they're like, well, how many hours does it really take to put on this? And I said, do you know what? Last year we estimated about 792 hours for this one event. And they're like, no way. I said,
Yeah.
yeah. Like people just do not realize the sheer amount of work that goes into some of these pieces. And for me, I mean, it's also, you talk about like, what does it look like the next day? Like you are exhausted, not only mentally, but sometimes your body physically from doing the things for what we do from production to our events. You're just mentally and physically exhausted as well. But it's the end result that I think fills us. And I feel like we're making just a small impact, right, on our world, but also a bigger one in our industry, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think in our regions too.
Yeah. Yeah. Good
I
point.
think that, your name and our name they're pretty synonymous with, high quality events and with people who are going to over deliver and provide value. And I think that all of those pieces lend itself to the next project that we work on
Yeah. Agree.
because it feels almost as if the things that we're doing today, they'll change and that those relationships change and people move into different positions and they bring you with and I think the hardest thing I don't know for about you, but I think the hardest thing for me to realize is the fact that not everyone's your client and there's going to be seasons in our industry that are going to come and go and you got to be able to ride the wave. And whether it was the pandemic or honestly some of the chaos that has ensued since the pandemic, if you think about it, Addie, like all of these companies and brands had all of this money to spend that they had to spend, whether it was grant based or whether it was other things. And so then you go through the pandemic where you didn't have anything and you're struggling, right? And to 2 years of, I would say, largely no joy because you're not sure if this is going to come back. You're not sure if there's a wave two, so everyone is just pushing as hard as they possibly can, burning ourselves out, burning our teams out. And at the end of the day, it's like now things are starting to calm down and you're starting to see what, it's going to be real. And I know there's some things that happen every 4 years that kind of change some of the scopes of what our Q4 and Q1 look like, because that's just a reality of things.
It is. Gotta
It's
love
just
it.
trying to figure out, okay, where is the bench line now?
Right.
And what does that look like moving forward? And does that mean, we're adding team members? Does that mean we're shrinking some things? Does that,
Right.
what is our level of service is going to be? Because
Right.
I feel like you guys and us both, we're constantly redefining what it is to, I think, plan for the future, how we're going to pivot and how we're going to find those hedgehog concepts that we excel at, that we're really good at, that we're complementary with. And, what are the things that we're going to get rid of because they no longer suit our purpose.
Right. I agree with you wholeheartedly. It's trying to figure out what makes it tick, but also how can we be a standout and be different too. And I think that's the thing that we've both done really well over these years. And yeah, I don't know, it's kind of it's just us, right? I think it's like, that's where we push each other to be different and try something new. And then we do it again. And then we do it again, and then we push it again. So that's the fun part. But for
It
you
is.
personally, I want to know, like, because of our schedules are so busy and it's sometimes nonstop, how do you unwind? Like, you've got a busy schedule too. And I think you've been very purposeful about stepping back in certain pieces as well, or some certain projects. But what does Chris Hintz do to unwind?
Well, I've always been a little high strung and I like working. I get a lot of joy from that. But I also I get bored sometimes and I don't like monotony. And I feel like there are things that I've done that are completely different than the business world. Like I played volleyball for,
I
30
remember.
some
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
And God, I miss it, Addie.
I know. I
I
remember.
just miss it. I miss being able to walk away from who we are in our positions at work and those relationships and just be able to go and enjoy something that's just joyfully for you. And not being able to play volleyball anymore sucks. I really hate it. I really, really genuinely do. But no matter what those hobbies are, you have to have something that kind of like gives you a fresh perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And it also
Mm-hmm.
like pulls you out of your day-to-day stuff to
Yeah.
realize how lucky we are to be able to put on events and make a living, to play other
Mm-hmm.
people's music and make a living, to be able to enhance other people's lives and create joy. Like those are things that most people don't get to do, and we do. So I think sometimes we get a little numb to the fact that we have this power to create and move people through space and time with joy and with happiness. And we increase our client retention and recruiting. And we do, raise millions of dollars for nonprofits and different causes. And those things are something we should be extremely proud of. But if you don't step away from those things once in a while and take a step back, you don't really realize the impact you have. So for me personally, my wife loves dogs, and I didn't. I mean, I do love dogs, but
Tell us about them.
She wanted a dog, and I didn't want a dog, so we have 3 dogs. Right? It's compromise. I have 2 bulldogs now. We have Gus, who's almost 2, Sheba, who's almost 3. Yeah, she's such a diva. She really is. And
I know. She was in our office. She was like little babe pup. You and I were talking about this the other day. Like we could hold her in our hand. She was just tiny.
Yep. And now she's not. She's 55 pounds of attitude.
Oh my gosh.
It's so funny story is every morning, we leave the house, in Chester and come into Sioux Falls. We have to literally physically carry her to the car. The other dogs, like Diesel, who's a 13-year-old boxer who is amazing. She's the best dog I think that we've probably ever had. And she's got some inoperable cancer. So we know that her time is limited. But 13 years with a boxer is like buying a lottery ticket. So we know that we're lucky. But Sheba will not come. So as soon as she lets go, bye-bye, Gus will jump in the car. Diesel jumps in the car. And Sheba takes her happy butt all the way back to her kennel and just sits there and pouts. And then you have to carry her to the car. And then she will only drive in the car if she can sit on your lap while you're driving. And
55 pounds sitting on your lap?
55 pounds. And she sits on my wife's lap every single day they drive into town.
Sheba.
Yeah. So
she needs to make a visit back to the office because I remember Callie holding her and she was just a little nugget, all wrinkly. And now 55 pounds.
Yeah, she is, and she's amazing. Awesome. But the joy that those dogs bring into my life, it's not even comprehensible. Like you walk in, and no matter the kind of day you've had, no matter the news that you've been, given, a lot of positive. Don't get me wrong, but we all have those days where we get news that we don't want to have, and they walk in, and no matter what happens, just that unconditional love. And you know what that's like with Rubes. I mean, she's such a cute little.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, Ruby is like no matter. It took her a while to, I think, warm up to us coming home and get so excited. Yep. And now she'll be 3 here at the end of the month. But every day you come home, if you come home 3 times a day, she always gets her toy, runs right up to you and wants to play. Yep. I mean, we're in this fun zone, but GSPs are like little Tyrannosaurus Rexes. Like they are so much energy. It's roar all the time and constant go. And other people that I know that have had GSPs say basically it goes like up until year 7. They're kind of like that. And then they're going to mellow out. But we're in the Tyrannosaurus Rex phase right now. But I love it too. It's like the love. Like I truly didn't have a dog since I was a child at all. My husband did, but I did not grow up with one. Or I grew up with one, but I hadn't had one since I was young. And so as an adult, I did not realize, and our friend Sarah Mogg said, like, you will not understand the love that you have for your animal until you have one. And I adore her. Like, I just cannot wait to see her. Yeah.
Same.
And you've got 3.
Absolute same. And
you've got 3 of them.
That little wiggle butt, you know what I mean? They wag their tail so hard, their whole butt curls, and it's just like joy. And
I love
so
it.
that's one way that I unwind.
I'm glad you unwind that way.
Unwind with sports. I'm like a huge Vikings fan. This year they're actually doing something.
Rocking it out.
Yeah, we'll see.
You guys are doing pretty good this year. I'm a Bears fan, which you know, and we have not done the best for quite some time, but we're not doing too bad this year. You're doing great, but we're not doing that bad either.
Well, the whole NFC North is like the only division that's all above 500 in the first 6 weeks since like ever, I believe. So like we'll see how that transpires. But I obviously like watching Vikings football. It's really the only sport I really watch anymore. UNC basketball, maybe a little bit too. But there are things, and also like helping my wife, and she's got her own blanket building business, and we're trying to do some marketing and stuff with that. But I also get a lot of joy from like mentoring others and helping. So like there's a lot of people that reach out and ask questions about, different elements of the industry, what we're doing now, but also other pieces from like, banking and finance and partnerships and stuff. And I really enjoy that. So
you've built a great name for yourself over the years. And I think it's incredible just to see your growth as not just as the company, but also as a human. I think you've changed a lot over these years too. So kudos to you and all that you've done. I mean, we've done a lot of different things from huge fundraisers to, oh my gosh, big galas to outdoor events together. I mean, conferences. I mean, just truly so many different things. But I want to hear
Ed Sheeran. Singing at the Ed Sheeran concert, yeah.
So loud.
Yeah.
I want to hear
That's so
like a
much fun.
funny. I'm going to tell you my funny moment of you, like the weirdest, funniest thing, and you probably already know what this is, but I want
Probably
to hear
the
like the
same moment.
weirdest event moment that you have had over the years. Just the
Weirdest event.
weirdest, like what the hell just happened? Do you have one?
Oh yeah. So I have
Or
two.
embarrassing? Weird or
One is
embarrassing?
no. One's the one you'll probably talk about USD. That was a
Literally is my
crazy.
favorite. I tell people all the time how you were so committed to the client.
Dude, I
So
sprinted,
committed.
and
So
this
here,
body
okay.
isn't a sprinting
Okay,
body.
I will
So
tell everybody about this. We did an event together at the University of South Dakota, and we were celebrating President Abbott's departure and his legacy from the university as being the president. And we together, like there was a 60-foot wide stage by I think 6 foot tall. We had I think 55-inch or 55-foot panels, like LED panels, all across the stage. And at one point, like the prompter was not working.
yep.
And so picture an arena. And the stage was built on one side of the arena, and Chris, Jeff, and the entire production team was on the opposite side of the arena. Not width to width, not length to length, but width to width. And something wasn't working. And all of a sudden, Chris jumps up, goes along the sidelines, and like sprints. Chris has quite the stature of a man.
Well, at the time I was like 6'3" and 320, so moving.
It's like moving, and then whoop, goes right underneath of this stage to fix it. It was truly one of the best moments of my life. I'm like crying out. So funny.
It's funny now, man. It was such a stressful thing at the
Oh,
time.
I know it was stressful. I know.
I think about that and laugh pretty often, actually, because
it was super stressful.
USD photos are still on our website.
I remember that Abbott was like, the font needed to be bigger too. He needed his like script at like 55 font. Like there were 55-point font. Like there was just so many things, but
Huge.
It was awesome. But you will do anything and whatever it takes for the client. And that was just such a funny piece for me. But what about you?
Yeah, that was good. That was one of my stories. So I think one of the funniest, I would say, stories is a small impact. So I got a call from our friends out at the Sanford Pentagon, Chad Hunt. I'm sure you know who Chad is.
Yeah.
So Chad hit me up. We did some national volleyball tournaments a couple months before this, and the LFA was in town. And they were hosting an event out at the Pentagon, and at the time they weren't traveling with the DJ, so they had a DJ in every city that would come. So he hit me up to do this thing, and I said I'd love to. And when you're working with the LFA or UFC, the music choices are all predetermined, or a lot of them are predetermined. But there is a spot between like the undercard that's not televised and then the main card that is televised, where in the room there's usually between 25 and 50 minutes, depending on how fast the undercard gets done, where there's just music playing in the background, and that music is a combination of rock and Latin and some hip hop and some other things. So it's really eclectic. But I remember wearing my headphones to mix, and then I have like an earpiece in for the comms. And so over the comms, it comes on, hey, stop the music. There's a fight in 167 or whatever. I can't remember what it was. So we stop the music, and you see, yellow shirts coming up the H, you know what I mean? And then they meet in the middle, and they grab one guy and go to this side, one guy go to this side. And this whole hubbub takes 7 minutes-ish, right? To get them out and blah, blah, blah. So over the comms comes on, okay, music go. So first song I play is Why Can't We Be Friends? And
no way. Was that purposeful? Purposeful.
It was 100% purposeful on purpose, because when there's a fight, like you can do something to elevate that moment and make it funny, or you can just bypass it. So I chose to address and made it funny. And someone tweeted it, and it got like retweeted like 20,000 times. It's the only time on Twitter I've ever been, popular or trending. But I remember that as being like, honestly, like one of my favorite moments ever, because it was just cheeky, it was funny. And I feel like those things are things that we translate into even our corporate spaces, where you're listening to the dialogue that's happening.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
John Stone Supply, Alex's perfect example, is they gave away a trip to Mexico at their last Christmas party. Fun. And so when the guy's walking up on stage, I had queued up Kenny Chesney's Have Another Beer in Mexico.
Oh, that's
and
fun.
It's like little things like that people recognize. I think just like enhance the event. And it also shows that A, you care, B, that you're listening, and you're committed to making the event better through your participation.
Right,
So,
right. I love it. Yeah, you've been there behind the scenes on some of our fundraisers where it's been more lighthearted, right? Not
yep.
when we've got tears coming out, but where you've done like the money, 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 like some things
Yeah.
like that before. Or you've done that actually with some of our like banking events too. Like it's just, yeah, I love it. But wow, I'm glad that you became popular on Twitter
Yeah. For a microsecond.
for a couple seconds, but it's good. But any new projects, big things coming up for you? Like talk to us about anything, any big happenings?
Sure. Well, so after a couple years of being pushed to do something, I was asked to do a conference last year for like our industry, like the
Mm-hmm.
DJ industry,
Yeah.
and a lot of our friends that have reached out over the years. So I did, and I just kind of opened it up to friends and got like 30 people here last year at the studios, and this year we're doing it at the Hilton Garden Inn coming up in a couple weeks, and we have like 50, ish people, committed to coming. And I'd like to hit 75. Like that's kind of my goal. But I want it to be something where it's like community, and collaboration over competition and a feeling of coming together and having some built-in trust and some other pieces, I think, that can bring us closer as an industry. Because I want the industry to be more united and instead of divided.
Agree.
And I do think there are prerequisites to being in this community that we should at least attempt to abide by. I know there's no such thing as standards and stuff in what we do, but I do think that there are ways to elevate events and there's ways to have education that doesn't necessarily require you to travel outside of the state to get it. So I put that together. That's something I'm working on right now.
Good for you.
Got some really great sponsorships, Pioneer USA, which is huge for us.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then some other really big ones too, like, so being able to like have people see the value of what we're doing, trying to bring the community closer together, having more advocacy for each other, and then maybe bringing the walls of, these barriers of competition down a little bit to where we can all thrive. But I think that knowledge is best shared and not hoarded. So
And I always feel like you're helping to inspire people. You are inspired by some of those same individuals within the industry. And I always tell people it's like those that inspire you very well could be your competition, but we do not need to act like that, right? It's how
Right.
do we better the industry together collectively? How do we unite each other in our work together to be stronger together? And I've always felt like that. You know that. I mean, you and I both have met with our competitors and kind of reached out and being able to help and assist with them as well. And I just think well, first of all, it's the right thing to do, number one.
Yes.
Number two, it just makes us stronger collectively. And it does not have to have these barriers built up like, oh, why are you doing events here? And why are you doing events there? It allows us as an industry to be stronger together and to have a more united front, to be honest. We're trying to create this experience for our clients as the end result, right? And how do we do it together more collectively and stronger?
Yeah, I used to, there was a term that we used to talk about like internally, like with our entertainers. It's like, we want to be the Baskin Robbins of the entertainment side of things. We don't want to clone people. We know that there's 31 different personalities. Some are a little, sweeter. Some are a little nuttier. I mean, it is what it is. But at the end of the day, it's like the quality is good.
Right.
And no matter what you're doing or what industry you're in or what you're trying to serve, there are clients that are best, with some of our competition. And that's totally okay.
Yep. Agree.
Would we like the opportunity? Absolutely.
Right.
We absolutely would. But the beautiful thing about marriages is you choose who you're going to be married to.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think our industry can be a lot like that. It doesn't mean that there can't be like conversations that happen, but ultimately it's like, if you work with someone and you're happy, great. And everyone is happy with what they have until they find something they're happier with. I mean, that's true. But I do think there is an ability, or I would say an increasing ability to communicate past the competition things and into more of the cooperation and collaboration and bringing an industry up, as opposed to, again, hoarding that information, or the only person who can possibly do this as good as me is me. Well, that's kind of narcissistic in nature. So I feel like, get the ego out of what we're doing, serve our clients the best we can, be the best educator we can, be a leader, not a boss, you know what I mean? Be a leader, allow people to grow, allow us to show our individual skill sets and thrive instead of just, doing the same mundane thing Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, answering emails. And God, put me on events.
Well, In the words of Vanilla Ice, we all need to stop, collaborate, and listen.
It's very deep and poignant.
I was waiting for some type of better reaction than that, but I mean,
No.
Yeah.
No, that's one of my karaoke jams. So I'll sing that
funny.
anytime. So yeah.
Well, I'm glad that we had the opportunity to chat today. Before we end, Ariana, as you may have seen in past episodes, she's got this deck of cards here that they're just fun questions we are going to ask. So I'm going to pull out one question out of this deck. I have no idea what it is.
My favorite part.
Yeah, I know. Actually. It's a fun part. So I'm going to ask you this question. Unplugged, uncorked, unscripted.
Dun, dun.
Ooh.
Dun, dun.
If you could be a contestant on any game show, what would it be and why? That's a fun one.
Okay. So mine's a little more, I would say, sentimental. Okay. I would be on Jeopardy. And the reason I'd want to be on Jeopardy is because when my mother-in-law lived with us for 4 years during her cancer treatment, that was something that her and I did almost every day. We'd watch Jeopardy together. And I have not watched Jeopardy since she passed away. Aww. But I loved how that we would watch that together. And she was like, God, you're smart. Because I do like trivia. I do have a pretty good knowledge of liberal arts type things. So I'm fairly well versed in a lot of things. I'm not going to go into the double Jeopardy and kill. Don't get me wrong. But the regular Jeopardy, I'll do okay. But that's what I would do. I would be on Jeopardy, and I would dedicate that to her.
I think you need to watch it now in honor of Carol. You need to watch it.
I'll watch it with my wife when she's able, but she's not able to do it as much. But that was
that's a fun one.
Yeah, it's sentimental. I like it. I'd do it. It'll be fun. Speaking of fun, this was fun.
Thanks. Well, I know we've got events coming up here soon together. We're going to end this year with a bang, truly. I think we've got some fun things in the works, and even next year. Thank goodness for Callie on our team who has our whole calendar planned out till the end of 27. So I'm sure if you don't know, I'm happy to tell you what events that we're working on together.
Well, here's what I'll say. I think we're both very blessed to have the teams that we have, and the people on our staff, because we both have incredible people. From a partnership perspective and all the way to like all of the other partnerships that make our companies great. We're very blessed people.
Well, thanks for joining. Thanks for tuning in. And for those that are watching, please check back every other Thursday and tune in on Apple Podcast. You can check out Spotify or see us on YouTube. Thanks for joining us, Chris. We'll chat soon.
Good to see you, Addie. Thanks so much.
You too. Bye, dear.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Uncorked and Unscripted. Make sure to follow and rate this podcast wherever you're watching or listening. Stay connected with us by following us on social media at Uncorked Unscripted on Instagram and Facebook, and at Uncork Unscript on Twitter and TikTok. And if you really enjoyed this episode, do us a huge favor and send it to a friend. See you soon. Bye.